Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hello, how are you? I hope you are well. Tonight we have wine, we have Princess Leia vibes, and I am using the force because I will be talking about my labor and birth story. Last week I did a video about how my pregnancy evolved from being low risk to high risk. I think this video is going to be equally honest and emotional, and I want to share with you like I would with a friend so that you can get the real experience and all the details that are involved with it. I'm not going to shy away from the details. If you're squirmish about this kind of stuff, better not watch. Grab yourself a glass of wine or a cup of tea and let's get storytelling. My baby is upstairs sleeping, we had dinner, so I've got all the time in the world to tell you my story. So where did we leave off? I was released from the hospital on Friday the 13th of December. As soon as I got home, I started packing my hospital bag. I had a growth scan booked on the 17th of December just to check that baby was growing fine, and I also had a checkup as well. I was going about my business as usual. I had stopped working at this point. I was just nesting, you know, I was constantly tinkering with what was going in my hospital bag or not, preparing things as much as I could. At this point, my due date was still technically the 27th of December. So in my head, from the moment I left the hospital, I knew I had about 2 weeks left. Wednesday, the 18th of December is when I remember waking up feeling fantastic. So fantastic that I actually took a bath that morning. And you know it's going to be a good day when you have a bath in the morning. When I was in the bath, I remember admiring my belly and also just wondering when the day will come. That morning, I also decide that I want to epilate and wax. So I booked myself an appointment to my local beauty salon. It was a rather awkward and more painful than usual experience. At this point, being so close to the due date, baby's head was really low, so I was wondering as I was getting the wax whether baby feels there's like something going on outside the house. Went back home, took another shower, painted my nails, watched another movie. My husband finished work around 5:36 and he spontaneously texted me saying, would you like to go out for a date? Let's go for dinner at this local Turkish restaurant. The food was amazing. We couldn't actually finish the meal. When we got up to the front porch, our friend Jim was waiting in the doorway and we hadn't expected him. He came along to drop off a Christmas present. I tell you this detail because he came in. I can't remember what we were talking about, whether it was movies or whatever it was, but we were just laughing so much. And when I say laughing, I mean belly shaking kind of laugh. So all of this to say, there was a combination of having waxed and all that intense sensation. Then it was the food and having a full stomach, but also just, I think the food maybe was a little bit spicy as well. And also the fact that I had been laughing for about 2 hours. All of these factors were enticing baby to come out to play. We go to bed around midnight, we have a cuddle, I'm the small spoon, I'm getting comfortable, everything's lovely, and I feel this jolt. It was unlike any other sensation I had ever felt in my body ever. It was this like and I thought, that's really interesting, really different. I'm like rubbing my belly, sort of thinking to myself what that could have meant. I give my husband a jolt and ask him to do some breathing exercises. This is something that we had learned in a hypnobirthing class. Him counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would breathe in, count 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would breathe out. We did that for 3 to 4 exercises and I felt calmer. We go back to trying to get to sleep. A few minutes after that, I feel another jolt. And I'm thinking, okay, this is very unusual. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom to check everything's okay. The second I pull down my underwear, I feel this trickle of pale pink water coming down my leg. The pad that I was wearing was soaked and I think, okay, this is getting real now. I took a deep breath and I knew the time had come. So I go back to the bedroom, I turn the light on and I tell my husband, this is it. Tonight I'm going to be delivering our baby. Following from the last hospital visit, what we had agreed with the midwife and with the doctor is that we would try to delay coming to the hospital as much as possible. Typically, you are only really admitted into hospital once you're about 5 to 6 centimeters dilated. For example, on the NHS website, it says that in a first labor, the time from the start of established labor to being fully dilated is usually 8 to 12 hours. It's often quicker, around 5 hours in a second or third pregnancy. I was expecting to be in this stage for at least 5 to 6 hours, which is why I was super chilled. I started playing some hypnobirthing music. I prepared this playlist of calming music. So I was about to pull out my oil diffuser and put some essential oils in it when I feel this intense desire to take a poo. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's pretty lucky of me. You know, I've heard these stories that when you push, you poo your pants. So I'm just gonna go to the bathroom and get it out the way. So I do that, I have a poo, and then when I finished and I'm back in the bedroom, I realize I still need to go. And it's really frustrating to have that feeling. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you go to the bathroom and it's not finished business, that's what I was feeling. So now I go back to the bathroom, I try again, but nothing was coming out. And I thought, God, this is super frustrating. Like, I'm going to be delivering and still feel like I need to take a poo. How annoying. I go back in the bedroom, finding things to do. I was trying to keep myself busy. The sensations I was feeling were this intense pain that envelops the back of your body. They reminded me a lot of period cramps, really, really heavy period cramps. They would be really strong for a few seconds and then there would be a release of about 10 minutes. At the beginning, they were between 10 to 12 minutes. This humongous relief. It felt really, really good. And then strong again, really crampy, and then a release.
Talk to me.
It is what's the date? 19th of December.
19th of December.
Thursday.
Uh-huh.
It's 12:24.
It's 12:24.
I was in bed and I had this jolt, you know, down there. And I felt this pain. I was doing a breathing exercise with me and then I felt another pain and then I think I broke my waters. Or my waters broke.
So we're in labor, I think.
So we're just
So if your waters broke, or they're starting to break, your pads are filling up. This is what they describe to you. You know it because your pads will get really wet.
My baby.
And there's baby.
Just gonna...
So they said until we don't go to the hospital, we should call them though, soon. We don't go to the hospital until you have contractions every 2 to 3 minutes. Every 2 to 3 minutes.
2 to 4.
For over an hour.
Yeah.
So if it's now, let's start from now. 12:24.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll start timing them in a minute.
Yeah. Got our music on and we're just trying to take it easy. I'm gonna meet you, baby.
Looks like we're gonna meet you pretty soon. Holy Okay.
At this point, my husband decides to call the maternity assessment center line, explains what the situation was, and they asked to speak to me on the phone. And the reason they do this is because they want to check my voice, my breath, get an assessment of how I was feeling over the phone. After they listen to my breath and my voice, they say, well, why don't you just come to the hospital? You know, we might send you back if you're not ready, but just start making your way to the hospital. So I finish packing my bag and start getting dressed. Now, this is where I made the humongous mistake of wearing one of those Uniqlo thermal thin layers underneath a wool jumper. I was so hot and I certainly do not recommend wearing anything like that. It was December, it was extremely cold outside. So anyway, I get dressed and we call a cab. Now, God bless the soul of the Uber driver that picked up our call that night. Just to give you a sense of how quickly things had accelerated from that first jolt, which was at midnight. I think we were about 50 minutes in. I had a really hard time climbing into the taxi. It was really painful and those sensations were really intensifying. In the back of the cab, I start moaning and groaning. Later on, my husband told me that he thought the driver thought we were getting jiggy with it in the back. Let me tell you, there is absolutely no way my face was saying I'm having an orgasm. This was pure pain right here. So I tried to focus on my breath. I tried to breathe through those sensations, but I was just in so much pain and really groaning like a hurt animal. And we get closer to the hospital and the driver misses the exit of the hospital roundabout. It took everything I had not to scream at the driver and I kept breathing and focusing on my breath. We finally get to the hospital. My husband tips the driver because Jesus, that drive was stressful. We get into the hospital, we get to the reception of this MAC unit, which we had already visited by now 2 times. And I get to the reception and the first thing I say, not hello, nothing. I go to the reception, I place my folder on the reception desk and I say to the midwives, I really need to poo and pee. I was clearly in distress. I mean, I was sweating, I was red in the face. face. The midwives were just so calm, you know, this is like 1 a.m. They say to me, well, here, this is where you can go. So they show me to the bathroom. And again, I go to the bathroom and nothing comes out. This is super frustrating. After a few minutes of waiting, they show us to a hospital bed, and that's where they do a checkup. I was in heavy in pain. I had these cramps. I'm still moaning. I'm still groaning. Various monitors and tools being flung above my head. I really have very little awareness of exactly what's going on around me. All I know is that I'm in pain. So the midwife asks me to spread my legs so she can see what's going on. I will never forget the words she said to me. Oh, sweetie, you are fully dilated. You know that sensation of wanting to poo? That's your baby's head. I can see it. I didn't fully understand what she was saying, so I asked her to explain what she meant. That means we're transferring you to the delivery suite. You're gonna meet your baby very soon. I get goosebumps just thinking about that moment. For any of you out there that wear glasses, you will know what I mean when I say that one of my first worries was not being able to see what was going on. I wear contacts now, I usually wear glasses, I'm blind as a bat, and when I came into the hospital, I was wearing glasses. So I put my contacts in, I stripped my clothes, I put on one of those paper robes, they put me in a wheelchair and shuffle me down the corridor. So the people I had around me were my husband carrying all the stuff, the midwife that was pushing my wheelchair, and there was another midwife in front of us that was opening the doors with her ID. So she tries to open the first door. She tries about 3 times, and at this point I no longer had the patience I had with the driver. I basically look at her and I say, seriously? This is important because you know that I was getting really close. They say that in the early stages of labor you can have a conversation with a woman. She's quite calm, she responds to questions, but when she has the full-on sass and the full-on I have no patience for you, you know that things are getting really close, and I certainly had full-on sass mode. So we get to the birthing room and I already knew what position I wanted to be in. I had this pillow we had brought from home because hospital pillows are super thin and they suck, so do remember that. I get on the bed and I already know that I want to be in this position. I didn't want to be in this position. This position helps the doctor deliver the baby, but it doesn't help the mother with the leverage she needs to actually push the baby out. All we had time to set up was the iPod. When I was putting together the playlist, I had this vision of a variety of songs I might want to listen to. Actually, I only wanted to hear one specific calming song, and that's the song I asked to be played on repeat. Now let's talk about pain relief. I only had gas and air. This is just how much I needed. Now I really like smoking nargila and shisha, whatever you want to call it, and the gas and air comes with a similar looking tube, so I remember just grabbing the gas and air tube and just sucking the life out of it like it was a shisha, and the midwife calmly telling me like, okay, maybe we can take it easy with the gas and air. It gave me this kind of floating sensation. I was a little bit out of it, but enough in it to know what was going on.
Don't worry, I'm not getting any,
I'll get my coochie.
I won't get your coochie.
And I think an effect of the gas and air is that at times I became quite giggly and I started making jokes. So I specifically remember telling the midwives that I had made their job easier by waxing that morning. And I also remember telling them that I was wearing my special hangry socks. And I also remember asking my husband if my lipstick looked alright.
You want to say something?
I'm fully dilated. Baby, your birthday is the 19th of December. What's the time? 2:30? Yeah, it is. 2:30 a.m.
Well, not quite yet. Close though.
2:20?
No, yeah, I think you have a few.
No, what's the time?
It's 2:30ish.
Have I got my lipstick on?
You still have your lipstick on. You're looking good.
Now at this point I was grunting and moaning, and it was really a grunt and a moan rather than a scream.
Well done, Mahela, well done. Go on, and again, really big push, that's it. Well done.
Oh wow, Boo Boo. The head's coming.
Well done, amazing. And again.
Just to remind you, at this point in the room, there's a few people around me. So first of all, my birthing partner, and that's my husband. Then we had two midwives. One main midwife that was in charge of delivering the baby. And then we had a student midwife. Now the role of the student midwife was to assist with any tasks, but also a very, very important task, which was to hold a warm compress on my perineum for the entire duration of me pushing. This was a really important task because it helped minimize my tearing. What I found interesting here in the UK, or specifically in the LGI, the doctor isn't in the room in a central location, and they're able to see what is going on in each and every one of the birthing rooms. They only come in if there's any complications or if their assistance is needed. However, they did show up at some point. After I spent some time in this position with my back towards the wall, I realized that my legs were getting really numb. What really struck me is how little muscle power I had. I found it really difficult to move. That's something that I really didn't anticipate, but all my muscle strength was being taken by these contractions. So what I did is I flipped on my back. This is a position that the midwife suggested, being on your back, but actually kind of sitting up and holding your thighs for leverage. And I found this to be super comfortable. I stayed like this until I actually delivered the baby. I would say it was at this stage, about 40 to 50 minutes of me entering the room, that the midwife told me two very important things. First thing was that I needed a catheter in order to prepare for potential blood loss. So I knew that I had lost some blood previously, and they wanted to be prepared just in case. The second thing, and this was again directly related to baby's health, but also to the fact that I couldn't do a home birth or a water birth, they really wanted to monitor baby's heart rate constantly. So in order to do this, they had to place an actual monitor on baby's scalp. So they placed the monitor here while baby was obviously still inside me, and that allowed them to constantly check baby's heartbeat. I remember my husband trying to breathe with me and really trying to calm me down, but I wasn't really having much of it. I'm really encouraged by their support, and they kept saying, you know, you're really close, but in that moment I realized I actually didn't believe them. I didn't think I was as close as I actually was. Okay. I think it was around 3 a.m. The midwife told me the baby was really low in the birth canal and it can only stay there for so long. I really needed to make a big effort and push, otherwise they were going to cut me. This was all unbelievable to me. What really made it real was the fact that at this point the doctor comes in the room and she says, if it's not coming in the next push, we will have to give her an episiotomy. This is where they cut your perineum so they can help deliver the baby. Come on, honey, save yourself the cut, push hard, were the last words I heard before I gave a massive push and the baby finally came out. It's really hard to explain exactly what that feeling is like. The closest I can think of is imagining you have this huge fish in your hands and it just slips out of your hands into this pool of water. I felt so relieved. The pain was instantly gone. I could almost see my belly deflating like a balloon. I was just so happy that it was done. I had pushed it out.
I'm done. Done. Amazing! You did amazing! Well done! And she's gorgeous! So good!
Next week, I'll continue the story with what happened as they put her on my chest as soon as she came out, how I delivered the placenta, how we cut the cord. There's a lot to say and I want to get into the details. Do make sure to leave me a comment below to tell me if you want to see the next video where I talk about all those things. In the meantime, I hope you have a lovely week and I'll catch you next time. Bye!